Hello and welcome everybody to what may be the most thrown together round people show to date. And that's really saying something. So welcome. We've got Mel joining us today, as well as Danny, of course. So welcome, Dee.
Hello, darlings. How are you doing? Other than being, extremely tired and, all the fun stuff going on.
All the fun stuff going on. I won't bore the audience too much with the goings on of my personal life, but it's been a hell of a few days. Just a very brief recap. I woke up 6 o'clock on Saturday morning. I moved house, I moved out, I cleaned house, did loads, all that stuff. Literally collapsed from sheer exhaustion, 7:30 at night on Saturday. Got up at 6 on Sunday, got kids in the car and drove to Grafton, arriving in Grafton Hospital about 10 o'clock at night, I think. 9 o'clock at night? 9 o'clock. Drove solid all the way with a child in the front seat who was in absolute agony and throwing up and fevered and whatever with tonsillitis. And I think I got discharged from the hospital about 1:30 in the morning. From there, drove to Nimbin at 40 k's an hour because it's really dark, it's heavy fog. I had no idea where I was going. Took me 2.5 hours to do a 1.5 hour drive, and arrived here at 4 o'clock in the morning. Slept for 2 hours. Got up, tended to her all day yesterday, trying to get her sorted. Had a couple of hours last night because it was on and off. So I'm a little bit delirious. I have not been online. I have no idea what's going on in the world. So you're going to have to fill me in on what's going on out there in the world. Mel, I really want to hear what's going on for you at your end and what you've got. I know you've got a lot going on. So that's my life. Oh, and apparently I'm ISIS. So
That's okay. Apparently, I'm Attila the fucking Hun. So there you go.
Watch out. Take it away.
No, go ahead. You get your 2 cents in before I start, because literally once I start, it could be very long-winded. Because fuck.
Well, I'm still waiting to find out how these people think I frickin' was, because, no, seriously, guys. A good place to start is with all the nonsense that's been put out into the media for distraction, as usual. Nothing new, same bullshit, different day. Interesting to see some of it being directed at the local free and independent media of the network. So, there's a lot of distraction going on at the moment, and we'll get into that. But I first want to just say to Lisa, I'm really sorry to hear you going through your upheavals and all of that again. And, lots of love to you, my love. It's so much.
Apparently has a plan and thinks it's really, really funny not to let me in on it. So, joke's on me. Honestly, everything's fine. There is an underlying sense, and it's a really strong one, so it's not even that underlying, that everything is happening for a reason and taking you to a certain place.
Yeah.
And I'm walking this fine line between following the path and just following my intuition to let me know, and creating within that for myself. So it's quite a game, and I'm enjoying it. I'm not sorry at all about having to move out of that place, because I just know it's leading to something else. So it's all good.
Good. You know what, for me the most important thing is you having such a strong and positive attitude about things, because when a terrible cliche, but life throws you some lemons, make lemonade. That, I've always been a believer in that, and that everything is putting you in a place for a specific purpose, and you've got to work with what you have. And begin our masters of doing that. And yeah, it's too, a lot of challenges that we're faced with daily. It doesn't seem to be a day where we have a moment's respite or a period of, okay, let's now build, because there's always constantly backpedaling to fix. We call it, we're MacGyvering things, holding things together with chewing gum and a piece of wire and some sellotape, because it's quite literally the way it is.
You can perform miracles with a paperclip.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Yeah.
And Dee, I want to hear how things are going with you.
To use what has now become my byline on Transpicuous News, it's been an interesting week. Where do you want to start? Do you want to start with the energetically what's been going on? Because all fucking hell has been breaking loose energetically, like frequencies, the shit that's been going on, CERN doing shit like I have never seen before. I watched the graphs, and Nick and I were out for most of the day today. Came back in, first thing I do, gotta go check CERN. Hold on.
I saw
apparently I'm choking myself.
I saw Cliff High's latest too. Someone sent it through.
It was a real weird.
CERN is going to go crazy, according to the webbot. All the language around CERN and the protests around CERN, and it's all going to go very mainstream, according to Cliff.
Well, CERN is, obviously this is one of those things. I can't tell you what the graphs mean because I'm not a particle physicist. So I can't sit there and go, oh, well, this graph does this and this is what it means, etc. But I've been watching the CERN live feed for long enough that you know what the different graphs look like. You know what the emittance looks like. You know what the luminosity looks like. You know these things. And then when all of a sudden you start getting brand new, never before seen motions and patterns, you go, what the fuck is that? And you look at, I go and I cross-reference the times. I've also now got the live feed for the oh God, it's gone right out of my head. The Earth's Schumann resonance out of Russia. I've got that. So then we go immediately jump over to that, go look at what's the effect, go look over at the geomagnetic, go look at the magnetopause, what's going on there. We've had geomagnetic storms, like I get the wave is of geomagnetic storms is continuing. We had an M2.1 flare today that was directly Earth facing. I haven't got the data yet to find out if we have a CME, but all the while you've got CERN doing stuff, and some of the shit that they're doing, like I said, we've spotted stuff that's going on that's just like, I have no idea where this is coming, what they're doing, because fuck, it's insane when you look at the graphs. So yeah, everyone I've spoken to, people, doesn't matter kind of where they are on the planet, people are feeling the same thing, hearing things, seeing things.
So if you're looking at you could say the Schumann resonance is the Earth's response. You've got the CMEs and solar activity, and you've got CERN, and obviously there's a correlation between the three of them and the activity and the readings.
That's what I'm trying to find. I'm trying to find the exact correlations. Like I try to look for if there's a spike at 1600 yesterday in CERN, was there something that measured into that we could see in the magnetopause of the planet as far as the geomagnetics to the Schumann resonance of the planet to the sun, and trying to make sure, cross-reference all these things, which is exhausting, needless to say. You end up with like 12 live feeds.
By the way, for those who aren't in Australia, I'm in a spot that is absolutely gorgeously abundant with wildlife. So you're going to hear everything from frogs to kookaburras to native birds. It goes off, and if the frogs go off,
Everyone
I'm just
goes
going to
off.
have to read
Yeah.
out. Because they're crazy.
Yeah, we have the big leopard toads here, and when they start singing, it's the same thing as like the first time we heard it was like, oh my God, there's a predator, because it sounds like right out of, Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Predator movies. When they start singing, that's exactly what it sounds like, as one of those predators. It's like,
These guys sound like a really bad high school band. They cannot get their shit together. They just cannot quite get their rhythm going.
oh, that's funny.
All right.
So yeah, energetically, it's been insane. The frequency stuff has gotten really, really strange. New frequency.
We're also approaching that magic period in September. It's currently
yes.
here in Australia. So, it'll either be, a week that never was, because nothing will happen.
Yeah.
The hype, or next week when we do the show, we'll be saying, whoa, guess what, guys?
Well, when I woke up this morning, because I said it on Transpicuous News last night, I said, look, Nick and I came to the conclusion, either it is going to be absolutely dead silent this week. Like, so dead silent that even the mainstream people are going to go, oh, what's going on? Or, as we said, all hell's going to break loose. And considering today I woke up this morning and Skype was down globally, I was like, oh, really? Because I really buy that as a coincidence. And apparently yesterday, Facebook was down in Australia. Multiple areas of Australia, especially West Coast Australia, had no Facebook for like 12 hours yesterday. I got multiple reports of that from people in Perth. Yeah. And then, news today, and the border closings are getting, in Europe, it's getting more and more and more very in your face. Hungary just passed laws to allow their military to intervene in border struggles. And Macedonia is just being brought up on charges. They're screaming at Macedonia for human rights abuses for what they're doing to refugees, or as the new politically correct term is, asylum seekers, because they're not refugees.
So have more countries closed their borders in the last week?
Let me see if I can give you a rundown. Hungary's closed off a bunch of borders. Croatia's closed off and militarized one of their borders. Serbia is militarized and closed off one of their borders. Switzerland is threatening to close off borders. Norway is threatening to close their borders. Macedonia is armed and closed off a border. Italy has closed off one border area. And I believe there was talk that Germany was going to have to close off one of its borders with, there we go. Denmark is closing off. Holland is bringing controls in, and Germany. Yeah, Germany's closed. They've already got one small section of border that's been closed off. Big announcement that came out yesterday, because it has nothing to do with any of this, is that German fighter jets have now been fully armed with ammunition for the morale of the pilots. Because apparently their pilots need a morale boost, and the way they get their morale boost is by being able to fly with live ammo. I don't know. I thought it was an interesting twist. But then today you have the Russian embassy was bombed in Syria. I'm not yet sure who's taking credit for that one, but if they try and pass the ISIS thing, I'm going to laugh, since we all know that ISIS is actually the CIA in America. And yeah, I don't know. It's just one of those things. Oh, and here's the big one, and you're going to like this one, Lisa. I laid this one out last night. Saturday morning, the son of the ruler of Dubai died. He had a heart attack. He was 35 years old.
Huh.
Now, as I said to Nick, as soon as I saw it, I was like, there it is. There it is. I knew there would be, I said to Nick 2 weeks ago, there's going to be a major death that's going to have all the political leaders, all go to one spot. Just like Nelson Mandela's funeral, way down there in South Africa, that just happened to happen when all the fucked up, crazy shit was going on in Antarctica. You know, South Africa, Antarctica, just a little hop, skip, and a jump. And it was all nice and quiet. It was all down in South Africa. I was waiting to see what would happen. And like I said, I was sure we were going to see something. There will be an excuse to get all the world leaders together. Well, like I said, the son of the king of, he's not called the king, I think he's called the sheikh of Dubai, died Saturday morning. The funeral starts next Saturday, the 27th. Now, this week, on the 23rd, is Yom Kippur, which is the Day of Atonement in the Judaic holidays, which has to do with sacrifice. On the 24th to the 27th, sorry, the 23rd to the 27th, in the Muslim world, it's Eid, which is the one of the two biggest holidays in of the Islamic faith, where it's the sacrifice, and it is the holiday to honor the story of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, that Abraham was going to sacrifice his only son.
Oh, it's goat time, isn't it?
It is goat time. So all the goats are out, all the markets are full, everyone's buying their sheep and their goats, and come Thursday, there will be the massive animal sacrifice all over the Islamic nations. And that is a global one. That isn't one that's specific to any specific region. It's global. Then you have the beginning of the Feast of Tabernacles, which starts on the 26th. Which, of course, the Feast of Tabernacles is, you have the blood moon on the 27th. On the 23rd, going back in time, is when Obama arrives in the United States. On the 24th, he is speaking to Congress.
Hang on, you mean the Pope?
The Pope, yeah. What did I say?
Obama.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, Popey Poo is meeting Obama. On the 23rd, on the 24th, Pope speaks to Congress. On the 25th, he's in the United Nations. Oh, which is, I didn't know. Do you know that the 25th of September is the 70th anniversary of the United Nations? 70. Isn't that funny how that number just keeps coming up? Then he's doing a multi-religious ceremony at Ground Zero in New York. A multi-religious ceremony, which I find to be very interesting. You've got the Pope, Catholic Pope, doing a multi-religious ceremony. And if that isn't a statement of exactly what we all know, I don't know what is. And then they're doing a whole wander through, I don't know, Central Park. And then he's doing Mass in Madison Square Gardens that night. And then the next day in Dubai will be the first day of a 3-day funeral for the son of the ruler of Dubai.
It does seem unlikely that these events are just going to play out as advertised, one after the other, without a hit.
Yeah, they're not selling it. I'm sorry, I'm just not buying it.
Can you hear me okay with this?
Yeah, when it goes down, it gets a little muffled. So you just may have to speak up again.
Okay. In the chat room, John's put, there's been a sudden discovery of a chain of volcanoes here in Australia, stretching from north to south of the eastern region. Is that along the dividing range?
I don't know. I haven't read that. Is that John as in Mr. Clark?
John A.
Oh, so not, okay.
Oh, okay. Quiet for the audience.
Okay. Yeah, you are. You've gotten a bit quiet now, a little bit muffled. It's almost a little garbled. Can you crank your volume? Click, 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 click. I don't know. Your volume button is loud.
How's that?
That's a bit better. John, can you send us a link? Can you post a link somewhere? Or I don't have my Skype open. if you could post the link, because I'd like to take a look at that. Oh, and apparently Keshe has just announced today, there's a video, that there's going to be a massive earthquake that's going to split 2 continents in half. And I'm waiting. I don't know. I just put it into this. I was like, yeah, anyone know what to do? Because I'm going to say North America is going to be one of them, but what's the other one? Yeah, I know Keshe's a Muppet. I agree with you too. But it's just interesting because we have the earthquake in Chile gets almost no media time. Almost no. Okay, thank you, Lucy. Just deafened me. Yeah, like the earthquake in Chile got almost no media time. Like it got mentioned, of course. You can't help but mention an 8.3 earthquake off the coast of Chile.
And the following tsunami.
And the tsunami that puts boats, on the streets. But there's been very little, and I commented last night of like, oh, isn't that convenient? Like Nepal ran, like all this shit went on and on and on about Nepal. Chile gets nothing, is the way is media attention. Oh, but you see, we got interesting shit going on in Nepal, and I called it at the time and said, what's going on in Nepal? Well, Nepal just passed their constitution. First of all, the government has been completely fucked for eons. And I just got a message on Facebook from someone in Nepal. They've just passed the new constitution, and the new constitution is so bad because it basically does nothing but pander to the corporations. That's it, pretty much. That the people are up in arms, the religious groups are up in arms. It's like, yeah, no, it's not going to happen. So, yeah, interesting. And there was another earthquake today in Chile, 6.6.
Really? Got on the coast again, or further inland?
Just right off of Santiago. There's been 139 earthquakes today so far. Last check. That was a couple hours ago. Over 3,000 earthquakes so far in September.
But nothing to see here, folks. Move right along.
Move along. These are not the droids you're looking for.
Okay, everyone can hear me better without the headphones.
Yeah.
All right. I will leave them off.
Yes, it's much better. Yeah, I mean, everything is just, I'm sorry, like they're just playing out the distractions, like Mel said. Everything to do with the refugee shit is a huge, massive distraction in order for them to close borders. I'm telling you right now, it's a martial law, close the borders thing that's going on. And I'm really, really sorry that some people find that far too fear porny to actually say that out loud. But yeah, suck it up, Buttercup. I'm sorry. It's time for all you people who are out there playing the airy-fairy game and waiting for your saviors to ride in on white horses to take a look at what's going on. So, and I'm not being negative, guys. I'm just saying you've got to be a realist.
I don't get the whole EU thing. I don't get it. I mean, the EU. I don't get the EU. It was to my knowledge.
No one in the EU even gets the EU. So.
But it was supposed to be, as far as I knew, it was supposed to be like the prototype for creating the unions all across the planet.
Mm-hmm.
We were going to have the African Union, the North American Union, the Asia Pacific Union, and they were going to make the EU this prototype that was going to work beautifully so that they could sell it to the rest of the world. And which is why they were propping up Greece and other countries to the point that they were, because they couldn't afford for it to collapse. And now the collapse is inevitable. Now they're going to end up dismantling the whole thing from what we're seeing, closing borders. The whole thing's going to fall apart. So is that because they just cannot hold on to that forward and it's going to collapse? Or have they come up with a plan B to make this? They have to say goodbye to the whole idea of unions if they can't make the EU work. Do you know what I'm saying?
Well, there is something there, Lisa, with regards to that, with what's happened with Europe, and you've seen this throughout history. Someone calling?
No?
Nope.
Sorry, that's me. You won't believe who that is.
Sasha
Yeah.
Stone?
No, his former, even better, the former legal representative of Humanitarian, Jerry Bruce. I'll speak to you later, Jerry.
Interesting. That's so funny. Okay, sorry.
Anyway, basically what's happened with the whole EU thing is they've been trying to centralize power in Europe like for hundreds of years. That's the whole point behind Napoleon. That's the whole point behind the Nazis. And it's always the same agenda. And they've not been able to do it so far. And then they decide, all right, now we've not been able to do it with all the wars we've gone about devastating Europe with. So let's find another way. Let's centralize power through creating economic trade union states, and under the guise of trade laws or trade relations, we'll centralize power. How do we do that? We centralize the currency. Okay, we can still pretend that yes, these states have their individual names, but really we'll just call it under the European Union. And what's interesting to note is that if you actually look what Europe was named after, the goddess Europa, and I just cover this a lot in dragonology. When you actually Google the goddess Europa, what you keep coming up with is the rape of Europa. Constantly. That is the image that keeps coming back. One of the most repeated artworks of classical art is the rape of Europa. It seems like artists were obsessed with depicting this particular part of mythology where this goddess Europa is being raped. I think it's interesting allegory that they name Europe after Europa because Europe is literally being raped. It is the Holy Roman Empire. It always was. And the people of Europe pay the highest taxes on the planet. It's a fact. And we get the least benefits for the amount of taxes that we pay. I mean, and Holland, I think, is one of the worst offenders now. And it's so pernicious. Let me give you an idea of the control, the way it is. There is no government health care, all right? You have to pay for your health insurance. So 200 euros a month for health insurance. It is against the law not to have health insurance, which means that if you get caught not having health insurance, you get fined. Okay, for not having it. You cannot get your driver's license unless you have health insurance, and you cannot get a job unless you have health insurance. Okay, so it's like you're so controlled, and health insurance then only covers pharmaceutical drugs. It doesn't cover anything natural or homeopathic. And then, of course, it only covers if you have over 350 euros worth of expenses. Then it kicks in. So you first have to spend 350 euros and then only will health insurance kick in and cover you. So it's ridiculous. It's really so pernicious and so backwards, and it's getting worse and worse. And I want to talk about this refugee thing because it's very important. Because I myself am a refugee, and I find this most distasteful, the way people carry on about this shit, okay? First off, the refugee crisis isn't a refugee crisis. It's a let's stop bombing the shit out of the world crisis. Because if you stop bombing where people live, they wouldn't feel the need to have to give up their homelands and flee. Because that's what I had to do. Okay, I had to flee Africa because at the time that I was there, all right, we were being told, whether it was rightly or wrongly so, that there's no future for white people in Africa. You want a career, get the hell out of here. Okay? Because that was after Mandela was released and the ANC had been put into power for several years, and suddenly there was something called Black Economic Empowerment where no white people could get jobs. Get the hell out of here. Young people, get going, get going. So what did? I got a 2-year working holiday visa, went to London, and you're only supposed to work half the time you're there, which means only for 1 year full-time or part-time over the 2-year period. But everybody works illegally, and I worked full-time over the 2 years and went traveling in between as well. But when I was there, I knew that my parents said to me, don't come back. Find a way to stay there. When your visa expires, what you're going to do, okay? And, thankfully, I met Biggie. We literally did the whole marriage thing, which I've never believed in. Even as a kid, my mother married 3 times. I never believed in getting married, so I'd never do it. Only did the whole paperwork thing at a registrar's office. No big fancy ceremony. I even wore all black because I'm so anti-establishment. because of the fact that you need a visa to stay in the country, and you can do that through marriage, through that process. Biggie and I are still together 14 years later, so what does that tell you? We're, out of choice. The simple fact is that I myself I am a political refugee. That's the bottom line. My book is banned in my home country now, and I don't even know if I can get back in without being arrested. But the simple fact is that people have to sometimes leave their home country to survive. What would you do? You've got kids, and you've got no chance of surviving because it's being bombed. You just sit there and wait to be firebombed or whatever. Some people have to get up and leave. Now, to alienate those people into such a way that you put them into camps after you've been responsible for bombing their country, okay, because let's face it, in Holland, the way it works is you pay about half your salary into taxes, 40 to 60% of your salary into tax, okay? And then half of what you pay into taxes goes directly into the bullets and bombs that kill people, because we are funding illegal wars with our taxes. And yet we have the audacity we're funding those wars, yet we have people in Europe have the audacity to bitch about the refugees coming in here, because there's now the xenophobia and this real hatred being directed towards them, because suddenly we can't get decent benefits, but guess what? We're spending all this money on refugees and they're spending other stuff, and it's almost like, I keep going on about zombie apocalypse. It's like they're gearing us up to rip each other's throats out. For me, I just keep seeing this constant throwing in of hatred and anger and deliberate attempt to cause division, but actually they're the root cause of it. If you go down to where the refugee crisis, it doesn't start with strangers arriving in your land and needing help. It arrives with the fact that you bombed the crap out of their land, you facilitated that with your taxes, and now they're arriving here and they need our help. And I see images of these refugees having food thrown at them like dogs. I mean, these poor people have had to abandon everything. I know what that is like, okay, and had to go to a foreign land, and they're trying to just make their way. It's not enough, and yet they still have to have food thrown at them. And this, for me, is something that's become quite a wake-up call as to where we are in terms of our state of consciousness and humanity, which I'd say needs some severe work generally. People really need to catch a wake up and start looking into their hearts and look at whether or not that is acceptable behavior, to throw food at your fellow human being just because they're seeking a safe place to live. Yeah. Because we facilitated the bombing of their homelands. We need to really look at this and look at where the responsibility lies, and ultimately it lies with us. Whilst we're paying taxes, we're facilitating war. We have no right to complain about these people coming over and just looking for the basic human rights, which is survival. That's all they want. That's it.
They like a place to, live where they're not being bombed, where their children aren't in perpetual fear, and they are not in perpetual fear that any point in time a bomb is going to blow up their house, their block, the school, the hospital, etc., etc. Well, it's funny because I apparently dropped a bomb on Facebook yesterday because it was that was Sunday. It wasn't even Monday. Usually I do it on Mondays. Someone posted a one of the photo memes. I love memes because they're so awesome for just get a message across in one picture with a few words. It was a picture of an Australian Aboriginal man, and it was basically saying that 100 million Aboriginal people have been wiped out off the planet because of what's been done. And hey, guess what? They were Christians. So next time you want to pull the whole woe is me Christian card and point fingers, maybe you should look at what the Christians have done in the past, which is something that just keeps coming up, especially in the States. It blows my mind, these extreme right-wing Christians in the US that are literally on this bandwagon of like, the Muslim people are, hateful, and they're all jihadists, and they're all this, and they're all that, and they're trying to kill us. And every single time you'll get CNN will run a story about 2 Christians were killed in Syria in a bombing. And immediately you'll get this screaming of they're trying to kill us. Like, seriously? Seriously. pull your head out of your own rectum and fucking take a look. And I went on and I basically said, because I had two people who came in and went, oh, well, I'm sure there wasn't 100 million Aboriginals killed. I was like, well, then you're missing the point, aren't you? You're bickering over a number because that is the only way you can live with your conscience of knowing what has been done. So let's just nitpick over a number and say, oh, well, 100 million is ridiculous. It could not have possibly have been that many. Maybe 100,000. Really? Really? And I said, look, this was done in the States. It was done in Canada, New Zealand, Australia. It was been done in South America, everywhere. It's still being done to this day. And yeah, you know what? Sorry. It was the Christians who did it. And people want to say things like, oh, well, it was just prisoners who went to Australia. I'm sure they weren't Christians. Really? Wow, you're just fucking a moron, aren't you? Yeah. And this rhetoric of divide. And when the whole picture was, of course, just pulled out everywhere of the little Syrian boy drowned on the beach. And there was all these memes coming out where people were like, oh, but look, we have our homeless vets. No one's looking after our vets, but you want us to look after. And then they pick a picture of like a woman in a very nice jacket and obviously wearing the hijab over top. And they're like, you know, with nice sunglasses and everything. And it's like, wait, you don't even know where that picture's from. That picture could have been taken in downtown frickin' Dubai. You've just picked a picture of a well-dressed Muslim woman, and now you're using it like to represent that she's like some refugee? Yeah, right. First of all, you should maybe look. Second of all, I didn't hear this person, the two people who posted it on my wall in Facebook, I was like, I've never seen either of these two people give a flying fuck about homeless veterans before in all the years I've known them. I haven't seen these two people give a flying fuck about the homeless people in America in all the years that I've known them. But now all of a sudden, oh, we need to feed our own homeless first. Really? Maybe you should stop looking at it as an us and them and just saying we should feed the homeless. Just go the homeless, because the Syrian refugees, the Libyan refugees, the Central African Republic refugees, the Libyan refugees, they're homeless. Just like the vets, just like the people in Canada and the States and in the Netherlands and in England and in Australia who are homeless and living below the poverty line, they're all fucking homeless. Sorry, that's my diatribe. I'll shut up now.
I'm sorry, but I missed your diatribe. I had a phone call with test results for Rani.
Divide and separate. Just divide and separate. The whole refugee thing is such a distraction. Look at the people. Look at the flush of people coming in. Blame them for everything. My favorite one, oh, look at all the garbage they've left behind. Right. Now, if you look in that field, do you see a garbage can anywhere? No. The people are walking for hundreds of miles, and you're mad that they didn't take their garbage with them. Right. Again, head, rectum, remove. Thank you.
Go to any Australia Day, New Year's Eve, any celebration in Sydney where you've got hundreds of thousands or millions of people who gather on Harbour Bridge and around the harbour and stuff like that. You should see the rubbish the next day.
I
clean up.
I
2
posted
o'clock in the morning, and it goes for 24 hours, and that's Australians leaving rubbish on their own soil.
Yeah, I posted a picture of, this is the mess that was on the side of the road of the people walking to Germany. Here's a picture of what was left after Burning Man in England. And it was like, holy shit. Now again, talk to me about refugees being just terrible people who leave their garbage everywhere. Again, anyone?
But how does this play into the question I asked earlier about how the collapse of the EU takes down the whole concept, really, with it, of all of the other unions that were planned to be put in place? So take it from here.
Agenda 2030. Agenda 2030 is about a one world government. They've gone past the whole EU, NAFTA. That was like the 80s plan. That was like the plan that they had in the 80s. Right? They're going to make these consolidated. We'll have the North American Union, the South American Union, the European Union, the African Union, the Asian, whatever. That was their 80s plan. Agenda 21 comes rolling in, and it rolled, and now you've got Agenda 2030, which is about to be announced on Friday for the 70th anniversary of the United Nations with the Pope. This is a one world government. Well, in order to pass that, in order to even have a hope of passing that, you have to convince the people. So what is the one way you convince the people that they need change? Is you have to make their living conditions right now so horrific, so terrible, so horrible that they beg for change. And then
if you
present the change with a nice shiny bow.
But how are they going to sell? I get that the unions were a step to a one world situation, and if they're going to try and bypass that now because they're running out of time and they're just going to go straight for the global, how are they going to sell the global if the EU didn't work? And the reasons people's living conditions in Europe in particular have deteriorated to the degree that they have is because of the EU.
But don't you understand that the whole problem with the EU is Greece?
Yeah.
Sorry, but I'm sorry, that's the dead on truth. I mean, and by the way, Tispiris got voted back in again. He's Prime Minister of Greece again. I seriously, I shit you not, you can't make this shit up. It's just ridiculous.
I was just about to say, what is actually going on is they're just making it up as they go along. There is no logical, you know, if you could say, okay, there is no logic to what they're doing because it doesn't feed into anything that's constructive. And we think, you know, as a logical person, you think of creating a life in a constructivist way that's positive. These people don't work like that. It's all about destruction for them. So nothing makes sense to us. No. You know, and they'll come up with some diabolical, I mean, they might even drop a nuke or CERN or do something, create some kind of natural disaster to bring us to the brink. Oh, and that's the reason the EU failed, you know, because of this huge freaking disaster. Or draft everyone into all the men conscription, which is just around the corner.
It is just
draft everybody into war.
Netherlands already started. Netherlands already started when they repealed, Biggie and I had a big conversation about that 6 months ago. The Netherlands has put that in place. Certain European nations already have it in place. Now, here's another interesting little piece that spun out in the last couple of days. The whole European army has come back up into focus again. Because for the last 2 years, they've been trying to perpetuate this thing of we need to create a European army, a European military. And of course, the US doesn't want that. The US fucking does not want that. Because if you've got a European army, then you don't need NATO, do you? All of a sudden, NATO becomes irrelevant. Oh, there goes the US's force control. So the big rumor is the fact that Merkel just told Cameron, you vote with us on creating this European army, and we'll renegotiate your EU membership. And Cameron's going, no, we don't want we've got the royal military. We don't need the European army. Well, of course not, because he is.
Cameron may not have a say in anything for much longer.
Yeah, well, you can hope and cross your fingers, but look how that went for you guys. Sorry, chick. You got rid of Abbott and ended up with Turnbull. I mean, hello. Have fun with that. Ex-Goldman Sachs.
Well, we didn't have anything to do with it.
I know. Isn't that funny how that worked out? Did people get a chance to vote on this? Where's the democracy there?
They just did. That's the second time they've done it in the last couple of years.
I know. Same thing has happened in Greece. They play that one out in Greece all the time too. So this is the whole thing. But everything's becoming very visible at the moment. Everything's becoming very visible. And the whole thing with the crash of the European Union, comes back to the one thing I've said all year this year. They've been caught with their pants down, and everything they've tried, the proverbial they, is not working. And now they are at desperation point. And desperation point now is kind of turning into almost like an every man for himself. And the whole closing of borders thing is the beginning of martial law. It is the removal of the Schengen state, so that now you're going to have an issue where Europeans are not going to be able to travel anymore back and forth, which was one of the main selling points of the EU, was the fact that people within the European Union would be able to travel everywhere, live anywhere, work anywhere. Well, that's all about to come to an end. They're desperate. And now it's to the point of this martial law thing, and I think it's because, again, people are waking up too fucking fast, and the people aren't buying the bullshit. And for when it comes down to financial collapse or economic collapse, if you want to call it that way, they need to have the people in place to control the people, because all of a sudden the people are going to turn around and be like, excuse me? Because I can pretty much guarantee that when the shit that happened in Greece and Cyprus happens in Germany, in France, in Italy, in Spain, in Ireland, in England, it's not gonna go well for them, because the people will stand up. I swear to God, in Spain, they've had major demonstrations every single week in Spain. And I'm not talking about, 2,000 people showed up to demonstrate against whatever. Each one of them is like 500,000 people. 2 million people were in Barcelona just this weekend. The Spanish people are fucking pissed. And if they turned around and tried to pull the shit that they did in Greece, in Spain right now, there will be revolution. There will be a bloody uproar, the likes of which, and that is why I think you're seeing the closing down of the borders and the militarizing of the borders. Because if you've got the military already there, to look after the refugee problem, well, they're already there. And you can't tell me that Germany flying around with their military jets with full ammo now, all of a sudden, for the first time in 2 years, is because of a refugee problem.
Or a morale issue.
Or a morale issue. I'm sorry. Although, I'm telling you, one of the best articles I read was the Netherlands military complaining that they have so little money. This was about 8 weeks ago. They have so little money that they don't even have the money for live rounds. So now when they're out on exercises, they have to go pew, pew, bang, bang. And it's so bad for morale for the Dutch military. Stick that in your pipe and smoke it. Seriously.
Yeah. That's very interesting, because they don't give a shit about the morale of veterans.
No.
Do they?
Nope.
Yeah.
No. Their job is done.
Yeah.
They can just go away and dig a hole and bury themselves.
Yeah, and the guaranteed more ammo won't make those veterans' morale any better.
Yeah.
It's just ludicrous.
I'm sorry, there's been some really awesome memes that have come out of the States about ammo and shit like that lately that I've just pissed my pants, and I've got a lot of good friends in Texas. And they're stockpiling ammo, the likes of which it's like, I had a friend of mine who was a report of something like, it was like one of the smaller European nations, the report came out, they just bought X many rounds of ammo. And my friend was like, you kidding? I got that in my basement. So yeah,
I'm just keeping an eye on
the chat room.
Chat room.
Totally different show today, folks. Totally different show.
Okay, somebody, you know how American Airlines had a glitch?
Yes, another one, guys, and this is what I'm saying. That plays into the whole Skype shit as well.
They sent the wrong plane to Honolulu on the 13th.
What?
I'm trying to catch it. Eleanor got an email for an order confirmation of an American airline flight that she didn't book for the 24th of September, leaving El Paso at 4:40. It was dated the 18th of September, the day that they had their glitch. Also sent the wrong plane to Honolulu on the 13th. And the story is, I'll read the aircraft.
Well, this is it. American Airlines.
American Airlines accidentally sends uncertified plane to Hawaii.
Okay.
What? Where was it supposed to go?
Yeah, obviously not to Hawaii. Well, this is the two things. I said there's only two logical for me. Because the whole computer thing, yeah, not buying it. Sorry. Everything, you had United Airlines twice in August get grounded, Delta Airlines for 3/4 of a day. You've had multiple where the whole East Coast has had all their airports shut down. Either A, they can't pay their fuel bills because it costs a fuck of a lot of money to fuel up those jets. And they're scrambling to reload their credit card, so to speak. Or B, it's a test. Just like Skype today. It's a test. I do not believe all these fucking glitches shit. It's a test. You get people immune to it. And it was perfect because you saw it, the difference between the announcement of American Airlines being closed on the 18th versus the announcement of when United went offline and was closed for 6 hours back in April. In April, people lost their fucking minds. They were like, oh my God, it was on the mainstream. Oh my God. This time it was like, American Airlines. Well, if you do it often enough, it becomes just so common that no one takes note of it anymore. It's the same thing with the glitches in the stock exchange, New York Stock Exchange. Oh, we've had to close down the stock exchange. We have a glitch in stock trading. Well, it's happened so often now that no one even pays attention to it anymore. It's the same thing. Skype goes down today. Facebook will go down later on this week, or Twitter. And it'll all be called computer glitches. And everyone will get so blasé about it that they will stop paying attention. They did the same thing with school closures in the States. I did a big piece on this yesterday. In the last week, I just did a quick Google search because there was 10 schools were put on lockdown in San Diego on the 17th.
Were these drills or?
Pardon?
Were these drills?
No. Full on lockdown. 10 schools were put on lockdown due to threats, bomb threats or active shooter threats in San Diego. Within 15 minutes. The first 8 schools got shut down with calls within 15 minutes of each other. The same day, later on in the day, there's a school in Tennessee that's on lockdown because there's an active shooter. And I said, oh, wow, I need to go look. I did a Google search with the parameters being U.S. states, schools, lockdown, and gave a date parameter of like the 15th to the 18th or the 15th to the 20th. And in just 1.5 pages of Google search, there were so many that happened that week, they filled my screen for the newscast yesterday. There was 25 of them that happened in 3 days. 25, pardon me, either lockdown or shelter-in-place orders. Now, they got a letter was leaked out to the public. It was sent out by a Catholic school in, I want to say Connecticut. Now I can't remember. I've got the letters posted on my Facebook, and I think I put it up on Removing the Shackles. Basically, with an opening paragraph to the parents being like, oh, in these troubled times of terrorism, we need you to know that your children are safe. Then with a definition of lockdown and shelter in place, then tells the parents that they must pack their child a large Ziploc bag with a bottle of water and non-perishable snack or snacks, plus something to keep them occupied, like a coloring book or a deck of cards or something, with their name and age and their schoolroom number, for the school to store for the 18th, because there will be a shelter in place. Doesn't say a drill, says it will be a shelter in place. It was also put on the school's Facebook page. As soon as parents went, what the fuck? Boom, it was gone. The notice was taken off the Facebook page. Everything public in the school announcements was gone. But the letter was out. It was already got copies, and I've got it plastered all over the place. All last week, massive amount of lockdowns. Why? Because you're training the parents. You have no control. In a lockdown situation, it does not matter what's going on. You will not get your child. The state, or the school, i.e. the state, takes complete control of your child. As a parent, you can't contact them. You have no rights over them, and they will not be released to the parent until the school says they've got the all clear to release the children. Well, you've got to program the people, right? And that's what it's been. So you've had all the shooter drills, and there's been a shitload of those over the last 6 months, year. Now you get to the point of like this last week. And basically, I said to everyone on Transpicuous News, folks, if I'm you, you get your kids out of school, make an emergency. Go visit grandma for a week. You've got a family emergency.
I don't mean to sound in any way blasé, right?
Yep.
And I have to admit, I'm not a refugee walking across Europe looking for shelter and running from my homeland. So it could be said that it's easy for me to say, but hearing all of that, how do I put this? When you feel into everything that you've just described, it's like energetically, it's void, it's dead, it's empty, there's no charge to any of this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how.
But that's what I mean when I said it's like desperation. It reeks.
The only thing that's actually happening that is the refugee situation. You know, those people's lives are being directly and adversely and horrifically affected.
Yeah.
Everything else you just talked about just feels like chatter, plans.
But it is. Well, does it or doesn't it? I'm sorry, Lisa. This is one of those things. If I got that notice, if my kids were in public school and I got that notice, my kids would be out of that public school so fucking fast their heads would spin.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
You know, it's a setup. And that's what I'm saying. When you look at it, it's a programming, right? You've got to program the parents that they do not have control over their children. The state has control. The police have control. The school has control. You have no control over your children. And there's been multiple statements made in the U.S. by politicians and other like leading figures, heads of big corporations type thing, that have basically said exactly this kind of shit. It's a programming meme, right? Because you've got to make the people immune to it. If it's in their face every day, they become immune to it, and therefore they don't react anymore. So that when something happens, and it does happen, i.e. Skype really fucking goes down because, something's been done, or Facebook, or etc., people are blasé about it. And they've got like a 10, 12-hour lead time because everyone else is like, oh, fucking Skype's down again. Whatever, and they don't see the ramifications of your communications with the outside world have just been cut. And it's all programming. That's my opinion. It is literally just a setup programming to try and get everyone used to all these things happening.
Here's the other aspect of this, which plays into it, and it's very much one of the reasons why Biggie and I don't do the whole let's go to protest public gatherings or organize conferences where a whole bunch of people are in one room together. And that is the aspect of perfect environments for mass targeting or agent provocateur action. Now, schools for me, again, nothing more than prisons or institutions. However, at a certain time of day, you can guarantee that every child between a certain age is in one of those. Which means that, say, my hometown, there were 30 high schools. If the army rolls in, they can be guaranteed of getting near enough every child between a certain age by just parking a couple of military trucks outside the 30 schools, grabbing all the kids, moving them to a military base. Then you contact the parents, come dinner time, guess what? We have your kids, you do what we want. That's the thing about having schools, unfortunately, and having children all gathered in one area. Don't want to put the fear into anybody. Your kids are at a huge amount of risk. I remember the amount of bomb drills we had at school where they would have like They were all drills. We had a couple of bomb scares where someone called in a fake bomb and whatever, kids were playing truant from school, decided to play a trick on the school. We've all done that, not me, but many people I knew did that. But they would basically march you, and you would all go stand in a certain place, and what they would do with that, have the military trucks come pull out outside the school in case they had to take the kids away due to the bombs going off. All right, but the bombs never went off because it was always just a drill or some kind of whatever. But knowing then how efficient and organized that was, how easy would it be for the military to round up all the children based upon the fact that all the kids are in schools and they know exactly where those schools are, okay? Exactly where those schools are. That is a very, very easy thing to do, quarantine all the schools. This is the issue we face and what people don't understand. And again, I got used to this growing up in South Africa where we started seeing a lot of the ANC bombing of churches and things. People congregating together creates a lot of risk and creates target areas. What is the most daily congregating group of people? And that is children between the ages of 5 and 16. They go to school.
Yeah.
And they're, easy to get hold of them, easy to quarantine them, vaccinate them. And I was vaccinated at school. They came round and stood us in a line. My mom and dad didn't have a say over whether it happened or not. Yeah. Easiest thing to do. And think about what happened in Canada with the Indian residential schools. These RMCP guys would literally go in boats, go park at a village and kidnap the children, take the children, and then take them off to these schools. And some people never saw their kids again because they died or whatever. What's changed? Nothing's changed. They can still do that. They can still come to the schools, take the kids off to a military base. They can still freaking do this. And this is, again, never wanting to throw the fear of anything into anybody, but another reason why homeschooling is such a good thing. And with, the availability of online access to, fantastic things like Laney stuff and whatever else, world schooling and the interaction you have with other children. It's not a case of, you need to socialize your kids anymore. Well, you can.
They've made it on purpose impossible for a parent to stay at home and educate their children because you need two incomes. There's no one at home to do it.
Yep. But that's the plan, right? I mean, that was the plan in the turn of the century, in the turn of the 1900s, when this was all started. That's was about. The whole women's right movement was about, was to get these women to go to work. Therefore, their children would go to daycare and would go to school. Therefore, they would not be in charge of their own children. That's the whole women's lib movement. That was the main reason for it. We need to get these women in work. A, we can tax them. B, that gives us access to their kids. And then you have, let's go into it, like formula and, the whole thing. Let's not even go down that road. But that was the plan. That was the plan right from the get-go. And this is the thing. I said this when California passed the mandatory vaccine laws for sending your kids to school in California. Children must be vaccinated. Mandatory. There's no excuses anymore. And I said the one good thing that's going to come of this is all the people that I know that are hardcore vaccine rights people in California, there is not a hope in hell that they will send their children to school. Because they know that even if they did, they would probably get taken away and get vaccinated anyway. So all those kids got taken out. A lot of kids got taken out of the school system in California, which is, I'm sorry, is fucking awesome. And I know it's hard. Listen, like Lisa, how many conversations you and I have had? You make the decision to be at home with your kids. Nick and I, that was the decision we made 13 years ago. That there would always be one of us home with the kids. And we lived on one paycheck and moved to whole different towns when you couldn't find a place that you could rent. You'd go and move to the town that had the cheapest rent around because that was the choice you made so that you could look after your kids. It's not easy, but it's doable. It is doable.
We did the same thing. When I was working in film and Phil was working in sound, it was like whoever got first in, first dibs for who got a job, I got one, so you're home.
You're at home. You're at home with the kids. I got the job. No, I mean, I don't know, folks. This week is just ridiculous. And like I said, the energetics have been really fucked up. Really, really, really weird. Really weird.
And we've talked about how everyone's been sick.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I've got real life examples of it in my own family, obviously. And there's a whooping coughs going around.
Mm-hmm.
In Australia, at least. I don't know anywhere else, but there's been a flu going around that is taking people out for 3 weeks. All right, this is not your 24, 48-hour bugs.
No.
This isn't even 4 or 5 days in bed. This is 7 to 10 days in bed and 3 weeks total, really, recovery. Whooping cough. And even people who are completely, as I would say, unconscious of what's going on in the world, they're all experiencing the same symptoms. Headaches, dizziness, nausea, and it's not being diagnosed as anything in particular. There is just this thing going around that everyone's got headaches, nausea, and dizziness.
Yep.
And to me, that's part of the energetics that are going on. And
Exactly.
Everybody in the chat room too. I know that Simon Atkins is referred to as, he's the one who named it Wave X. But how many people are independently, not just jumping on Simon's bandwagon, but completely independently, have come up with this business about some sort of energetic wave that's heading our way? Because a lot of people have jumped on Simon's bandwagon, as I said, but I want to know how many are independent.
And how many before him? Like, is this, because I don't pay attention to this shit. So,
well, is this the event that was talked about, or before? What?
Exactly. Is this just a new thing? Is it a new meme? Kind of like your whole Mayan calendar, December 21st, 2012, blah, blah, blah. Is that what this is? Yeah, could be. No. I mean, because literally, I fluctuate. I have days where it's like a seesaw with me. I'm like, oh my God. And that's the one thing I say is, if it wasn't for the fact that you can feel something, like, and hear it, like literally, I've figured out that I'm very, very, what's the word? Auditory when it comes to frequencies. And I woke up this morning with a brand new frequency in my ear that I've never heard before. Like, never. As in, the first conscious thought I had when I lay there was like, what is that frequency? And I could hear it. And I literally, you start playing the game, as I always play the game, where you go, okay, is that coming from outside, or is that in my head? No, is that outside? No, that's in my head.
What do you master? If it was it higher pitched than anything before, or lower?
Completely different. And here you go. I'm going to give you this because I can still hear it. If I take out this and stick my finger in my ear. Yeah, I can still hear it. Do you remember Star Trek: The Next Generation? Okay. Yeah. Do you remember the sound that when they transport? The very, as soon as they'd start to transport people with the transport beam,
beam me up.
Yeah, there would be a tone, and it would feel almost like a waver, but kind of medium high pitched. That's what I'm hearing right now, and that's brand new today. I've never heard that before. And I was like, the first thing I did, go, okay, what the fuck is CERN doing today? Is this a CERN thing? Is this a human resident thing? What the hell is this? I don't know. It's the same thing visually, audio. I can't, when you hear it, when you sit there and you go, well, something's up. Something has got to be up when you hear changes and things like that. And I've heard more and more people in Skype rooms, on Facebook, getting emails saying, oh my God, I've got this high-pitched ringing. So many people in health rooms going to doctors about tinnitus, and I'm like, it's not tinnitus. It's you're just hearing frequencies. It's not a ringing in your ears. It's
Yeah.
It's like 3 different people who were like, oh, I went to the doctor and they checked my ears and they said everything was perfectly fine, but here, take these drops. And they're like, wait, if everything's perfectly fine, why do I need your drops?
Yeah, but there's comments in the chat room too. Headaches for a week, sick for 2 weeks. Frequency, magnetic, gamma rays, wave X, Nibiru. It's all of the above. So, does anybody in the chat room have an answer? Is Simon Atkins and his wave X the only one?
Or was there something even before him?
Something independent?
Now, here was, I remember I read a pile of studies. They came out of Russia. They came out of Russia in, I want to say early mid-2012. And it was a guy, and chat room, I wish Jeff was here because Jeff would know. We're missing you, Jeff, if you're listening in. There was a guy who was a scientist in Russia who had identified a field that we were moving through, that our part of the galaxy was now moving through. And
this is not the photon belt or any of that stuff.
It was like the photon belt, but it was more so. It was much more, and he said he had no idea what was going to happen when we entered this belt. When this area where all these particles were, he had no idea. And he says, there's no way of knowing what will happen. Now, you could say it was like fear porn, etc., of like, oh, if we don't know what could possibly happen. Or it was scientists going, I don't have a fucking clue. I've seen it, I can see it, I know we're going there, I have no idea. So when the whole Wave X thing first came out, the very first time I heard about it, I associated it with this information that this guy had said, because the guy said we would be entering it sometime in around 2013, and it would get, like, as you get deeper into it type thing, there'd be more, it would be denser, et cetera, et cetera. Is that what it is? I don't know. Now, I have another little bit that I find really, really interesting, that the whole solar system is going through climate change. I know. And this is, there's been like about 3 major scientific articles come out in the last 3 months talking about the solar system going through climate change. And yet they're still pushing carbon taxes and man-made climate change on Earth. And it's like, wait, so you're saying that our exhaust emissions are just so bad they're causing climate change on Pluto? Really? Because, wow, you're stupid. But yeah, like, and there was one that was released 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, that was really great. And the guy did a thing. It was like, basically, this has happened. It is like on Mars, certain ice caps have completely disappeared. The temperature has changed. And they're talking about even different tilts happening and different rings appearing around Saturn and different things happening on moons around Jupiter. And I'm just like, oh, right. So basically, do you mean the whole solar system is going through major changes? You know, it's not our planet. No. It's the whole.
Oh, well, I remember David Wilcock was talking about that years ago.
Yeah.
This is not isolated to Earth. This is happening throughout our solar system, and it's got nothing to do with people driving SUVs on planet Earth.
Exactly, but now, like, it's mainstream. Like the last one, the one that I read 2 weeks ago was on CNN, right next to an article about global warming, and I was just like, oh wow, does no one else see the fucking funny on this one? 2 + 2 = 4, apparently.
Well, because if they don't focus on the global warming issue, then they can't push the coming one world religion of environmentalism.
Yeah.
And we have to make, these austerity measures and everything else that they're going to, I think, try and push globally in order to save the planet.
Well, they're going to start taxing us what happens on Mars pretty soon. You know, we've got climate change on Mars, we better start taxing the citizens of Earth. No, seriously, any reason to tax us, it's absolutely a given. Watch out for that one, folks.
Oh, and apparently, Nick, I'm sorry, was it Elon Musk who said it? He's probably got his headset and he can't hear. One of the big guys, like Elon Musk or one of these guys, just came out and said that we should nuke the face of Mars to get to basically for Earth. Like, so that, like, Earthlings, we should preemptively just nuke the whole face of Mars. And I was like,
how does that
do you see the face?
benefit
I literally, it was like, wait, okay, first off, are you saying that there's something on Mars that we need to nuke to prepare it for Earth to go and colonize Mars? Because is that an admittance that, oh, there's life on Mars? Because, I mean, the only reason you need to nuke the face of Mars would be if there was life on there, or perhaps people there, indigenous people that you just wanted to wipe out. Like, what is the nuke? The nuke is it's just the latest blanket covered in smallpox.
So, you know, it's amazing that they actually have that kind of mentality where, I mean, there could be any number of human or other races living there if you follow any of the information of the people that we've been interviewing over however many years, okay? And they just want to nuke it. I mean, what about, it's no regard for life. It's just, it absolutely flummoxes me that they come up with that kind of ridiculous, retarded solution. Just, it's nuke things. That's what we'll do. We'll nuke it.
It benefits us. If it's the same thing, what? Where's the?
I don't know. Well, you see, we're supposed to colonize Mars, didn't you? Are you just not paying attention to the news? We're going to colonize Mars.
So if we nuke it, we won't colonize it.
No, that we can colonize it. They want us to nuke Mars in order to prepare for us colonizing it.
What?
I know. Trust me. Again, I can't make this shit up. This is right out of the mainstream news. And I agree, Biggie. Not the beer part, because I don't drink beer. It's disgusting stuff. Okay, I want to jump subjects.
Good. Okay.
Okay. Did
you the frogs, by the way?
Yes, it sounds like Brian's here typing. It does. It sounds like the Mr. Bionic Fingers Man. I posted an article on Facebook and I put it in the Skype rooms and I sent it to you and I sent it to a bunch of other people. Now, the article itself was out of like the equivalent of the National Enquirer, and it was pretty much a bullshit article. But it made me go look at something. And it was basically, the premise was, man gets hit on the head, he gets beaten up or something. They find him, they put him in hospital, he's in a coma for 6 days. He wakes up and he can't speak any language that anyone can understand. And apparently after a couple of days of them not being able to figure out what the hell language this guy was speaking, a rabbi is visiting someone in the next room and hears him talking and realizes he's speaking ancient Hebrew. That's the premise of the news story. And there's a name, and of course now I've got all my internet closed down, so I can't go and look up what it is. There's an official, it's a syndrome, and it has been documented where people have a massive head injury and they wake up speaking a completely different language. There was a guy in Malaysia who was a young guy who was 17 years old, and he woke up speaking Japanese, Korean, Indonesian, and not Malaysian, and one other language, and they would rotate. Like, it was almost like his brain was going through cycles where one he'd speak Japanese, and then he'd start speaking Mandarin. And there was a guy in Australia who, I can't remember what language it was that he woke up. I think he woke up speaking Chinese and German or something ridiculous like that.
And forgot English already.
Completely forgot it. Their home first language is gone, wiped out. Almost always comes with either head trauma or following a massive migraine headache.
So what do you think? Do you think it's past life memory? Do you think it's...
No, I don't. You know, we talk about cycles. And we kind of talked a little bit last week about cycles. In fact, time is not linear, right? And you talked about, say, your 100-year cycle. Well, we'll call it 100 years, 200, 500 years, whatever length the cycle is. And you talked about your slinky. And we said, as this is an experiment, you never run one. You never run one experiment. You run multiple experiments. And you have a control to run the experiment on different levels to see how the experiment turns out. But time isn't linear. So what we see as cycles, what if those are all running in this moment of now? And it's just a dimensional, whether you want to call it, it's another cycle, it's they're happening in another dimension, that's, you know, touching ours, etc. And we've had multiple conversations about the memories that we've had and things that you've seen in dream times that are like from somewhere else. And you know it's you, and yet it is not your life. It doesn't have anything to do with your life. And I sat there and went, what if in the head injury, that person is accessed or jumped from one of the other experiments, one of the other dimensions, one of the other cycles, kind of like we talked about timeline jumping. We talked about, you know, the stories that we've gotten of now so many people, if someone's died, and now how many stories have you gotten? I've gotten 3 more this week after the show of people saying, oh my God, I know this person died and now they've just reappeared in my life again. Yet I know for a fact they're fucking dead. One woman said, yeah, I attended his fucking funeral. I know the guy's dead. He was in the casket. I saw him. And now he's 15 years later, he's just reappeared. He's alive. So what if this is a crossover?
You said briefly before we went live that the whole timeline meme
has
back up again, done the rounds again.
It's done the rounds again.
Has there been new glitches noted?
There was a bunch of them, and I can't remember them off the top of my head because I just kind of scanned through a bunch of the articles yesterday. There was a couple of new ones. Most of them are pretty little, but there was one major one. Oh, what was it? It was another historical one. Oh, it's gone out of my head now. And it was a conversation that was had on a chat group. And it was about something that had just happened relatively recently in history, and no one in the group could agree. There was 6 people talking, and all 6 people were like, no, that's not the way it went. What are you talking about? It was something like that had happened in the last 10 or 15 years. So not like way back history. So yeah, that whole timeline thing. Now, the one article I read that was, I just scanned through quickly, it was again like what we were talking about, the shattering of the matrix. The matrix is crumbling, and as the matrix is falling apart, you're getting all the crossovers are starting to happen. We're seeing into as different lines or different pieces of it, different realities are starting to crash into each other because the matrix itself is falling apart. Kind of like that ripping of the veil, so to speak. And people are walking through into the other side. And the thought that I had with this thing with the languages was we've had people, like, for example, Andrew Basiago. He's talking about the Mars jump room, and he's talking about all this shit. And there's so many people who've then come up with other information about Mars that just does not correlate in any way, shape, or form. And one of my thoughts was, well, what if we're looking at these experiences of people like Andrew, like Duncan specifically, it was a head injury that triggered him to remember. What if it's not from this timeline? What if it's from another timeline or dimension, how reality, another experiment, another time loop cycle that's running concurrently, and we're playing parts on all these different, we're actually in each of these different cycles, which is why we have these bizarre memories that come up of meeting people or seeing people or just interactions that didn't actually happen. It's because it didn't happen here, but it happened over there.
In the Matrix movie, in the real world, it's actually 20 something or other. But in the Matrix, it's the 1990s.
No, because he says something was like 27 and something or other, or we think it's we think it's like 2500 or 2100 or 20. You know, I can't remember the date they give.
No, either can I. But it's not the 1990s, which is what's being played out inside the Matrix.
Yeah.
And that sort of popped into my head last night in regards to this whole idea of cycles. So when we were talking about inside the construct, inside the dome, so to speak, inside the Matrix and outside, who knows what era, epoch, or whatever is happening on the outside, and that on the inside, it's literally just this 100-year cycle that's just getting played out and played out and played out. And every time they press reset, a whole new history is written in for us. They make tweaks and changes to account for whatever evidence is there that we created for ourselves in the last 100-year cycle. You got to account for that. Well, now there's this relic that wasn't there the last time, so now we've got to throw that, write that into the story about where that came from. Press reset. The whole thing plays out again for another 100 years.
But like I said, what if it's not being played out one after another? What if it's all playing out concurrently? Time is not linear. No matter how you look. And that's
I agree.
I'm sitting here going, you could
think outside the construct, it's not linear. But with however our consciousness plays into what's going on inside, it is happening in linear fashion to our consciousness.
Yeah.
And it's getting reset.
Yep. So
within the construct, it's just this last 100 years, and then we rewrite history a little bit, and make sure, cover the anomalies, and press reset, and away we go again, and away we go again, and away we might find that outside this construct, it's what we might conceive of as, within 4,500.
283,000.
I mean, who knows if time is measured at all out there.
Yep.
But that's, I don't know. I don't know why this 100-year thing is a real, bug for me, but it is. And the whole slinky. But the construct itself, the matrix itself, the programming is collapsing. So we are seeing, maybe what we're seeing is all those rewrites, as well as potentially what's on the outside. We're starting to see it all.
Yeah.
Can I say something to that, Lisa? And that is, the only thing that can, for me, having studied dragonology and having done all the work that I've done, the only thing that can account for the constant recurrence of dragons in each and every culture, without one culture remembering what it is from the next and it being reinterpreted and rewritten, is by happening with what you're saying, is the rewriting. It's the only way, where we've gotten to a place where we're generally not taught about dragons at all in school and stuff, although we kind of find them on Chinese restaurants, and we kind of see them in the Zodiac and kind of go, what's that? But the only way we can kind of, and that is such a huge part of our culture, because all culture is rooted in dragons, a provable fact. Just go through my work and you'll see it. Right down to reading, writing, literature, theatre, ball sport, music, arts, the works, glass making, all comes back to the dragon. And for us not to have the cognitive knowledge of that, the only way I can imagine that has happened is by the constant rewriting, whether it's every 100 years. But what you've described is the only way, having gone through and seen the how it's been carved in stone, marble, preserved in art, that it's in so many places, yet most people in this confused level of reality just don't know what they are, or haven't got a clue about them, or think of them as mythological creatures when they're very clearly not. The only way you can do that is by constantly rewriting the history. As you said, taking the anomalies and creating a little story to fit it in, like
Exactly.
one flew too close to the sun and his wings melted or something like that. You make up some stupid story and you apply and teach. And that's what you learn as mythology and myths and legends in school, you know?
Yep. Well, I mean, we see it even now with the whole thing. They find a structure and they date that structure within an acceptable paradigm of dating according to what's acceptable by the scientific, archaeological, historical community now. And then when, you know, like the one that's just been found, the one in Turkey, starts with a G, never mind.
Göbekli Tepe.
Thank you. Where it is so pristine that they can do really, really accurate scientific measurements, and I'm going, oh, this is way the fuck older than we thought. And considering it resonates with what over there, which we just said was 4,000 years old, but this is 35,000 years old. Oh, well, now we've got to take another look at everything, right? And that's what's kind of going on right now. Is this all of a sudden there's this huge push of like, well, wait a second, how old are these things? And it doesn't fit with the history that's been written in. So is this kind of part of the shredding of the matrix? That when the history just no longer fits with the history that's within our little matrix cycle here that's been fed to us, all of a sudden it's like, oh shit, we gotta either hide it or spin doctor it or something to make it fit with what this running experiment cycle has been given as a paradigm.
Yeah, and I think we're going to see more and more and more of that. More of these, oh shit moments. Where it's like, that doesn't fit the script. Quick, rewrite.
Quick, someone do a rewrite. Well, I don't know. I think they're trying to rewrite right now, and I think that's not going the way they planned.
No, we know too much.
Well, that puts what we're seeing currently in a different light too. I mean, if they're in the process right now and have been for a couple of years, probably since the end of 2012, to press that friggin' reset button and it's not working, then a lot of what they're doing right now could be
hiding.
No, like remnants. Let's create the remnant that we need, so that when we finally do press the reset button, we can write that in to the next story, which is going to change their concept of their history yet again and of who they are. I mean, the story at the moment is that we're the result of some kind of cosmic accident, slime that came out of the soup, and that, you know, Neanderthals who just, you know,
must be
some thumbs. I mean, it's really kind of, and yet all the evidence tells you something different, like all of the archaeological evidence. So, I mean, they're bending over backwards to account for that stuff and make it fit with this concept that we just sort of crawled ourselves out of a swamp. But now, I don't know, there's something, I think a lot of what they're doing now could well be that. We need to plant the evidence that we can then write in and explain for the next cycle.
We've talked about that for like weeks now. The whole idea of like they've got to write themselves into the next cycle. Right? So you have to make it relevant. You have to get everything set up. I get it. I think you could be right. Too bad they're not going to get another cycle. Fuck it. I don't consent.
Well, here's Lisa's thing's muted. Here's an interesting piece. Is that Nibiru, if you actually look what the meaning of the word Nibiru comes from, an ancient Sumerian meaning, which means the prediction. Now, what's interesting, if you start looking at what you say about how they're writing remnants in now, okay, how, you look at how they also sort of talked about perhaps they talk about the fallen angel, perhaps there was a star that fell to earth or something like that. It's, for me, I see that happening. I see the remnants being written in with the return of Nibiru. It was when they write about it again, they could talk about it was predicted that this deity returned. Its name was the prediction, that kind of thing. There's so much of it. It's too obvious now. You know, we know the template too well. Those of us who do the research keep coming across these patterns and going, oh my God, you know, you've got to be stupid not to see it. But absolutely, they're playing out the remnants, and this whole Nibiru thing is what I mean, we may not be around to see it, but if that planet comes around, it's going to be played out like a deity, okay? Because of the way in which the word Nibiru constructs, you can see that it will, in the future, like Jupiter, the planet, be named as a deity. It was always a deity in ancient religions. The sixth planet, that's why the six-pointed star and everything. There's so much surrounding the symbolism of Jupiter going back through all the various languages. And it was referenced as the sixth planet, even though it's not the sixth planet, because we know there's various other ones in between. But that's how they kind of look at the etymology of it. It is all being set up for, as you say, a remnant syndrome playing out for the future. There's all the hallmarks are there.
Yep.
We did plan on taking callers today, and we've left it a little late, but we may have time for one or two if we get the call-in details up on the screen pretty quickly. We might have time for one, because we have to finish right on time. There is another show coming on straight after. Lane is on. So yeah, sorry, we just got caught up in our own conversation.
Quick jump back to last week. Randy Moggins and Duncan O'Finian could not make it on the show last week, and we're currently playing Skype and Facebook tag. It's actually become quite a big joke. We want to have a conversation, and we've basically come to the point of, like, if we get all three of us or four of us together at one time, with everyone having internet at one time, even if we have to, we'll pre-record and put it out that way. Because, all these time zones are just a little bit of a pain in the ass. 4 different time zones with, it's not working very well. But
it's not just that. I mean, they just can't seem to get themselves
Duncan's
online.
having issues getting online. I can't imagine why.
And Duncan doesn't work by watch. He kind of works by Duncan time.
Yeah.
Okay, so
the watch
we're working on pull a number in on
Okay.
screen. But
I'm sorry, everyone.
going back to we're keeping you up.
I'm sorry. It's been
back-
a really long day for me too. So
Yeah. The beginning of the show when I talked about how it feels like, I guess one way of saying it is like the universe has a plan. There's a whole bunch of ways of saying that. And it's playing out right now really, really strong. And not to take anything away, excuse me, you made it, it's contagious even via Zoom. Not to take anything away from our ability as creators, because I'm not, but it's as if, and Barbara and I kind of had this discussion last week on the collective imagination. It's like we do have the most amazing ability to manifest and create, but it feels in particular right now that it's within these parameters that have been set by the planet or by the universe or whatever, that this is the plan, this is the path we're going down, this is the road. Now you can play as much as you like within this path,
but you got to follow the yellow brick road.
but that's the way we're going. Yeah. How you want to experience this is totally up to you, and it is within your control and free will and manifestation power to do, but we're still heading that way. And that feels like what we would call the positive timeline, the earth timeline, whatever you want to call it. But that's the road we're going down. And that is why I guess I made that comment earlier about all of this talk, everything that's going on in the
Yep.
globe just feels energetically empty.
Yep.
I don't know how else to explain that. I don't have the words other than
No,
that.
I actually do get what you're saying. I really, really do. And I think, I mean, that's my fluctuation, is everything is going exactly as I know it's supposed to go. It doesn't mean that the road isn't going to get rocky.
No.
Right? But I really do. I still have a very, very, very positive, and that's one of the things I always want to stress is while I might warn about the rocks in the middle of the road, it doesn't mean that there isn't an end to the journey, and the road still leads to the same place it's always led to. So I've always been very positive, and I always feel very positively that is, they're not going to win. They don't have a hope in fucking hell in winning, because it's not in the plan. So we keep going. But we have to watch. You watch for the rocks that are in the middle of the road as you're going along. You don't want to, like, twist your ankle on the last bend, right? So,
but they're trying to make it look like a a getaway scene from the 2012 movie. The trees are falling in your path, and the volcanoes, and the earthquakes, and the but the hero always manages to dodge and weave and jump and gets out of it.
Yeah, exactly.
It's a bit like that.
That's right. So we're all the heroes. We're all going to make it to the hero always makes it to the end of the movie. Come on. Hollywood can't sell a movie unless the hero makes it to the end. Does it mean that we're not going to maybe get a few, bumps and scrapes and maybe get a little bit of dirt on our faces, along the way? Artistically created dirt. Yeah, and sorry, I'm tired. I'm really tired. It's been a long day.
And do you want to address the latest Sphere Alliance message or not?
The Sphere Alliance can go bite my hiney. Seriously, this and I just, it's so fucking ludicrous, so ridiculously preposterous, so asinine that I just sat there. Nick was way more upset about it than I was. So yes, apparently they asked Bill, American Kabuki, asked the Sphere Alliance. I guess it started off with asking who is ISIS. Well, guess what? Our very own Lisa is ISIS. Everyone applaud. Everyone. Oh, ISIS is so nice of you to show up. And apparently, so then he wanted to know what characters I've played, and apparently I was Joan of Arc, Mary Queen of Scots, and Attila the Hun, and some Chinese guy I've never heard of. I'm Attila the fucking Hun.
I think that Chinese guy is a girl.
Oh, okay. It's, My only comment was, could you not have picked a better picture of me to, like, Photoshop into Joan of Arc fucking armor? Seriously? I'm, like, stuffing my face on a bus after 10 hours of trying to get to the fucking Sahara, and that's the picture you picked to Photoshop? Sorry, my ego was a little bruised by that picture. It was just like, oh, wow, that's a seriously bad picture. I don't care about the message because, fuck, seriously. Ridiculous. But, yeah, the Sphere Alliance can bite me in the hiney for all I fucking care.
All I'm going to say is personal message to Bill. Here whenever you want to shake all that off and have a chat.
Yeah.
Because you can see the strings from here.
Yeah.
Billy?
Just a bit.
Yeah, that's all I got to say.
So yeah, that's all I got to say about that. Like, seriously, yeah. Like I said, I was going to pull out Nick's sword and have it sitting here. I could do my whole Joan of Arc thing. I said if I was back in Canada, I could have gone into the tickle trunk and pulled out some fake chainmail and really done it upright. Had a real two-handed broadsword to swing around, but yeah, well, I don't have a tickle trunk here, so sorry.
They also, Sphere Alliance, I mean, I haven't heard much of anything about Sphere Alliance of late at all, but they were also talking about the event.
Yep.
Were they I know at one point they were equating it with Heather Tucci, but are they talking about it in the same way as like it's this Wave X thing? Have they jumped on that particular bandwagon? Do you know?
I have no idea. I really don't. I get messages from people who say to me, "You have to go read what they've just written." It's just one of my buddies in particular, thank you, Tom, who sends me the ups and comings and goes, no, you have to go check this one out. And I go in and I kind of read and just go, okay, yeah, no, just close it down. I just don't want to see it.
Now, hang on. Okay, I'm going to change subjects very dramatically.
On you go.
And ask Mel. And I know we've only got a few minutes left, so I'm sure whatever this subject is requires a lot more. But there was something that you were launching that you wanted to talk about, or you're a part of, that you wanted to talk about on the show, on one of our shows.
Yeah. Always launching new stuff. Which new thing was that again? Okay, yes, public opinion. New show, new content. Basically, I don't think I've had my voice out quite enough. Created this beautiful network. Gave a space to everyone to come and have their little say, and feeling like my opinion's not being heard. So I decided to give myself a place where I can have my opinion and everybody else can too. So we've called the show Public Opinion to take on Walter Lippmann's book. It is what, Edward Bernays or Walter Lippmann's book, I'm not sure, but it's a piss take on that. And basically, I hope to keep it as funny as possible, because quite literally that is what the news is. It's sheer comic value these days. But what we'll be discussing is, I get a lot of, for whatever reason, people are sending me stuff. What do you think about this? What do you think about that? And I just get so tired of typing back. And some of these questions are really good. And I think it would be good to share these perspectives with everybody. So I've got a research team together. Yay! Thanks to Alan Devlin and Lou Milder, who've come forward, and they've helped put together a little production team. So I've got a research team together for that. So we've got that new show starting, Public Opinion, but also there's a new law project which is starting. And basically, this is what the phone call was about earlier, Jerry Bruce. After the failure of the ITNJ, there is the pieces being picked up. And funny enough, it's all the people who have been burnt by Sasha Stone have sort of come out the woodwork, pulled together and decided to not let this fall to death, basically. And we have a great team. There really is. It's an amazing team of people. I've been on the phone to them constantly. Mike Upston, Rebecca Cope, Sue Rhodes as well. Obviously, she would know about it because obviously Rebecca's spoken to her. And they're going to put it together in a way that's going to be a lot better done. And just one of, the very small things that, I don't know if anybody actually saw that piece that with Sir John O'Branick at the ITNJ inauguration or tribe, whatever it was, the ceremonial seating. But he was there in his barrister's outfit. Okay, he's wearing a robe and a wig, but he was serving the purpose of the Chief Justice. Now, think about this. It's kind of like a pope going to, I don't know, a bar mitzvah. You got to wear the right outfit. You don't go to, I don't know, a wedding dress and a prom dress. You got to wear the right clothes for the right occasion. Otherwise, you just look stupid. You don't wear the wrong, ceremony.
By doing things, he's representing the bar, isn't he?
Exactly. What he's doing is representing a barrister. Okay, the word barrister comes from the word bar.
Yeah.
Right. And but he's not even there in the capacity as barrister, because he wasn't appointed barrister. He is the Chief Justice. He's not even wearing the right frickin' clothes. Okay.
Did we just lose Mel, or my internet connection just died? What the hell just happened?
Now, does that mean that ITNJ is officially dead? Because as far as I know, they're still moving forward.
Well, Rebecca Cope was the founder of the IT, was one of the founders, and she's dissolved it. She's had to, because what she needed to do was everybody else who signed in as founding advocates, she had to dissolve it for them as well, so that they weren't liable. So that's what she did. She did the honorable thing, which you realize is a crock of shit. Okay, but let's just say that everybody who was involved, including Rod Klaas, okay, has actually showed up recently, and he's in communication with us. So there is nobody on in the Sasha Stone camp except for Sasha and Brian Kelly, who I believe is digging his new pool. But apart from that, I don't think there's anybody who actually can work with Sasha or wants to work with Sasha anymore, or that will work with Sasha, because it's not a case of we don't want to. It's a case of I think he's just burnt everybody so much no one wants to work with him anymore.
And I just found out, and I'm not going to say it on the air because I can't, because I was sworn to secrecy, but someone else has just left that camp too. That was a big one.
Ooh.
Off air, guys. I'm sorry. I can't tell you this on air. I'm sorry.
Damn you.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Promised.
Just make it into the chat room right now for me. Go ahead.
Nope, because one of you will blurt it out.
I won't say anything. I promise.
I'll tell you when we get off air.
Okay. Fine.
But what is the official stance from, say, Sasha or New Earth on the ITNJ then?
I don't know. I don't give a fuck personally. I have just like.
Let's just say that recently they tried to relaunch something. It was the new logo, and they did a whole show about the new logo, and I think they did 10 minutes at the end about New Earth Nation TV, and the only thing they had to say about it was they had their own server. Okay, lovely. So how are you going to create content? Because the show that they were talking about having there was Adventures into Sovereignty, which, most likely is not going to happen for them anymore, and most likely will be doing a show with CCN at some stage. So, that show's not happening. What content you're going to have on your little television network? I got 8 letters after that symposium where they were saying, Mel, we actually remember what you were saying all along about it being an epic exercise in branding. That's all it was. He was launching his logo. There was no substance to the symposium at all. It's absolutely falling apart at the seams, and we don't even need to pick it apart anymore. It just is, okay? Because the truth is being revealed, and no one wants to get involved with that mess anymore, simply because they put all their efforts, energies, and resources into it, only to have it thrown back in their faces. And this is the latest one. Sasha's been going around telling everybody that he started Conscious Consumer Network, and that, this is his project. Yeah, taking credit for our network, guys. Yeah. So yeah.
I'm sorry. That is just fucking hysterical.
I know, because this is one of the very few projects that is actually working and that ticks over and that is successful and that has a really great team who really want to contribute. And
I was in on some of the initial conversations with you way back. I mean, I know that this is not.
Yeah.
Oh my God, it's gonna.
Yeah.
It's okay. Yeah. Delusion is just, one of those things, and you can take.
He obviously can't accept the failure. Basically, he can't accept his own failure. This is what I'm getting from Sasha: is he refuses to accept his own failure, and it's miserable what he has done, because he's just used and abused and sucked the resources out of so many different people. That the only thing he can try and do is turn around and save some kind of credibility by attaching himself to the one project that is actually working. I mean, all the others are, dangling carrot, donate $1 million and we'll build this fucking bamboo hut in the middle of nowhere out of organic materials and shit. And, once we've got $1 million, we can do that. No. This is a project that's working and is going. So, of course, he's going to, vampire, whatever credibility he can out of association to it. Makes me sick. Anyway.
Breathe.
I just don't give a fuck. I really don't. I can't. So many. Randy Moggins from Off Planet Radio put a brilliant little piece out on Facebook. And if I had my Facebook loaded, I would actually read it out to everyone, because it's so brilliant. And the whole thing is he was talking about alternative media being full of a bunch of hacks and people with agendas. And I sat there and was just kind of like, and I just can't be bothered anymore. It's like, as each one of, they're coming up now or let me phrase it, they're becoming so visual now. You see them so quickly. The agendas are so transparent, etc. It's like, oh, there goes another one.
Yeah.
Oh,
Can I just say about Randy? Bless his heart. You know what he was trying to do? What he was actually trying to do was he was trying to unite alternative media. He was going around to all the big websites, trying to get everybody together, okay? Trying to get everyone together. And in his attempts to unite people, he realized these people didn't want to unite. They all had their own little islands they want to protect. They all got their, and this is, and I'll be very frank with you, we've had people who joined us right in the beginning just to get the publicity of being part of the network, and then left after one show when they realized that, or they thought that being part of the network potentially rivaled their platform, when we've only ever created our platform to be an enhancement to people's work. But they're still old paradigm. They're in competition mode of, oh, this could affect my income. Oh, I'm just going to join in for the credibility of joining this new big adventure. And then you guys know who I'm talking about, of course. But yeah, there is this very much, we've got to protect our little income, our island, or our point of view, or it's very sad. And as a result, we've got this situation where very few people actually, can I just tell you, we have, if the alternative media front totally pulled together, I think it would be game over tomorrow. The reason why it isn't is because of all the separation and division. And, I direct this to those people who are causing that separation and division by protecting their own little islands and not wanting to collaborate with others because they have an ego. Ego, exactly.
You know what? When I've putting together the tug events, the untangled gatherings, you have how many times you contact someone and they'd be like, well, who else is going to be on the panel?
Oh, yes.
Because, if, you've got people on the panel that I wouldn't. And what one person who I really, really wanted on for the beginnings to go into the Origins conference, and he was just like, well, I need to know exactly who's going to be speaking and et cetera, and I just was just like, you know what? No matter how much I actually want you to speak, because I think you have a huge amount of information that people need to hear, I don't want to have you on this. So fuck you. Because it was just like, that's your attitude of like, well, you have to know who else is speaking. Is it, is there someone in competition? And in the historical aspects, in the scientific communities, in every one of them, there's these egos of like, well, I won't be on if that person's being on. Why? It's ridiculous. It's egos. And if everyone just fucking pulled together, and speaking of pulling together, everyone, we're at the end of September, and there's no money for October for CCN to go forward. So I'm sorry, guys, I'm going to do it again. Say, hey, please pledge your support, make a donation, whatever you can. Like I said, even $1 makes a difference. The other thing is, I have a special call-out favor to ask. Apparently, what people are doing is there's people who are recording the shows off the live stream. They figure out how to do that. And then they're uploading their videos of our shows to their YouTube channels so that they, make the ad revenue and the hit revenue and the AdSense revenue off of it. And B, when they do it, then people aren't purchasing the high definition recordings that Biggie works his ass off to put out, which is one of the few things that funds the network going forward, because somebody else is ripping it off and copying the stream and putting it out for their own selves.
There's another thing. If you're watching this at anywhere, any site other than CCN or mine, But if you're, what people are doing is they're recording them and they're uploading them to their own members only paid websites. So people are paying somebody else who's got nothing to do with CCM to go and watch them in a members area somewhere else.
Yep.
There is nothing that can be done legally about it. So it's a moral issue. Do not pay an independent website to watch these shows. You can watch them for free live, or you can support the network directly through Ethymarket.
When it's up and running. Is it up and running again? It keeps getting hacked. No, it's not up and running right now. I'm sorry, guys. You may not realize it, but it's been torn down and hacked 11 times now. Something like that. Okay, so 11 times now, I believe, Ethymarket has been torn down and destroyed somewhere, somehow. And each time Biggie has to go back in and build it ground up.
There's a few things that need to be sorted out for us, just to give you an idea of what we need to do, because I'm very transparent about the costs. We're getting towards the end of the year. We've got 3 months left at the end of the year. We need to renew the broadcast license with live stream. We also need to upgrade the software because Biggie is literally hanging together. Smoke coming out the computer, chewing gum, sticking wires together.
He's MacGyvering it.
This is the aim for 2016, is to be able to upload all shows within a couple of hours of shows finishing. And that can only be done with a new computer. The one we got the very basics. When you start a project, you don't get the best of the best. You get what you need, and then you can always upgrade. Well, that's what the plan was when we went in. But the bottom line is that we sometimes are being left 2 to 3 to 4 days without able to get videos up online because of the backlog of work or the websites being hacked, etc. It'd be a lot easier if we got that upgrade. That means everything would be on immediately, and that also then stops people from going and taking the live stream and uploading it because we get it up immediately. It's that period of 2 to 3 days that allows for people to get impatient and go back on the stream, pick it up, because you can rewind the live stream, pick it up, and then upload it, because they've been doing that, and we've been sort of plugging the holes along the way. So there's various solutions. All of them require funding to get sorted. Obviously, we'd like to get the archives to you guys at a much quicker rate. My cat's come in for a hello. We'd like to get the archives to you guys at a much quicker rate, almost immediately. We'd also like to keep going for 2016, which requires us to renew the broadcast license. The budget for 2016 is $60,000 to run the network for the year, which is a fraction of the cost of mainstream media networks. They go through that in a morning of recording. Okay,
easily.
Budget, guys, I worked in mainstream media. That's a morning show easily. They spend that kind of money. So what we've managed to put together in terms of, since the beginning of the year, over 800 shows Biggie has produced. Okay, I don't know any other network where you get 800 shows produced for that kind of budget. So what we're able to produce for the amount of resources required is huge, and we really need people to pull a finger out and help us, because we cannot do this. We work our butts off, seriously. We cannot do it without the resources. We've got the manpower, we've got the talent, we've got the team, but unfortunately we do still need to pay for things like the broadcast license. We need to get the computer upgraded so that we can be more efficient for you guys in terms of getting the archives to you quicker, okay? And also, we want to take it onto our own private server so that we don't have to put up with all the hacks and things that we've been having. There's a number of things we can do once we've got our own servers, and the quality of everything will just increase and increase. We're constantly looking to improve the service that we bring you guys, and on a number of levels, a multi-level, different websites, interactive portals which are being built. This is an ongoing project. We don't just stop at one channel. We are looking to get a second foreign language channel, but again, it's all dependent on whether or not we get the resources to do it, and that's up to you guys. So please help us. And so only way we'll be able to continue to keep bringing you shows like this.
Good stuff.
And on that note, we need to leave because we've got Lainey lined up, ready and waiting.
And we took off her time. So
we did. Okay, thank you, Lainey. We do apologise for going over.
And that's it, everyone.